when I run the video, so it slows down because the internet connection in this area, which is a rural area, is not stable. So that let me mute everyone and then mute it and then turn off and then let me stop video. Done. Let's get started. First of all is guided meditation with extended silence. Guidance is only given at the beginning. Then you meditate your own way with extended silence. Let's first listen to the meditation gong. Sit in a comfortable position with our back upright. It's always advisable not to lean against the chair or the couch. And then when we have our back straight without leaning against, so it helps our spine deal with our emotions, our energy properly. And let's leave our palms together on our lap and slowly closing our eyes. Let's relax our shoulders and drop our shoulders. And let's open our chest, keep our chest open. And take a long, deeper breath and relax and breathe out. And let's slowly disconnect ourselves from our immediate surroundings. Otherwise, our immediate surroundings will remain a source of burden, source of distraction. As we are having our eyes closed or cast down already, let's also close our mind to our immediate surroundings and to the world, to the external world. And needless to remind you, the universal aspiration of self-reliance. We have to be like a bird. A bird is now sitting on a branch of a tree, so that all of a sudden the branch breaks off the tree. But the bird is not scared because it's not the branch of the tree that the bird is sitting on that it relies on. It relies on its wings. Likewise, even though we depend on situations when it comes to self-comfort, self-reliance, but regardless of how negative a situation is, given the moment, when we rely on ourselves, when we trust ourselves, when we trust our ability, when we trust our skills, when we trust our potential, we don't have to worry about the branch of the tree breaking, while our wings are stronger. The wings would help, our feathers, our wings would help us sustain ourselves. And we don't fall off the tree, even though the branch is breaking off. And we wake up to the accident, the disaster all of a sudden, and all of a sudden we can fly away, or we can land on a different branch, on the same tree or in another tree. So that is the universal aspiration of self-reliance. And as we continue, we may, as usual, encounter the two kinds of distractions, internal and external. As you know, internal distractions are any feeling, any thought, any memory, any tendency of the mind that is against our focus on whichever the meditation object we have chosen. And then external distractions are sounds and noise, increasing and decreasing in the immediate surroundings of ours. And we should not get agitated by, afflicted with, disappointed with, or distracted by those internal and external distractions. As those distractions occur, we simply remain silent, we simply trust ourselves. We keep our focus on our nostrils, which is the focal point of attention. So as the bell goes on one more time, let's bring our attention to our nostrils. And listening to the fading away of the meditation gong, the sound of the meditation gong fading away, let's start our meditation in silence. No more guidance in between. And then so that we will meditate, feel free to stick to your own technique. As remind yourself that you come from different, you come with experience in different levels of meditation. While some are familiar with the samatha level, some are training in samatha, some have already trained in vipassana, and some of you even can go to higher levels of vipassana right away. But it's always advisable to start with samatha, because however experienced you are, and at times due to daily activities, you may, by the time you sit in meditation, you may feel drained, you may feel exhausted. And so that is always good to start with the samatha, no matter how experienced you are, even if you have experience in higher levels of vipassana. And do deep breath for a few minutes, like a couple of minutes, and then switch back to your normal breath, and then start your own level of meditation. And in case domanasas or mental or emotional pains and dukkha's or bodily pains occur, don't get agitated by it. Just like stick to the technique that you use to deal with distractions. Same technique should be applied in dealing with domanasas and dukkha's. That is to say, be happy that you are being given an ample opportunity, ample chance to see the impermanent nature of our existence, and believe in that pain is as impermanent as joy, whether it's be it emotional pain, mental pain, or bodily pain. That being said, let's start our silent session as the bell goes on one more time. Thank you, and please open your eyes and stretch out. So as you know, today's topic is some factors that predetermine cuti-citta or last thought moment. If you remember, or maybe remember very well, that we had a few sessions or a few dialogues on cuti-citta, or last thought moment. So given the short time, I'm not going to talk about cuti-citta or last thought moment at length, because we already did discuss that quite a number of times on different occasions, directly or as part of discussions on other areas such as consciousness. Anyway, if I just explain the term again, cuti-citta, C-U-T-I, cuti, and C-I-T-T-A, citta. Cuti-citta means the last thought moment. Last thought moment is the final moment that someone experiences before breathing their last breath. So last thought moment is the moment just before someone's death. And according to the Buddhist teaching of rebirth and consciousness, last thought moment is very critical, is very important in the true sense of the word, because it's the cuti-citta that triggers our next birth. In other words, it is the karma or whatever appears, whatever occurs within the last thought moment that triggers our next birth, that qualifies our next birth. Based on what occurs within the last thought moment, within the cuti-citta, we may get reborn into a life form based on that. The life form that we come back into upon death depends on what occurs within the last thought moment. So, and then whenever you talk about the Buddha's teaching of samsara, rebirth, karma, and consciousness, you at least touch upon the last thought moment. Now, I'm not going to use any quotations from sutras, or I'm not going to use any canonical quotations today, because we did discuss this topic, so that I'm not going to use any Pali terms. My purpose, what I want to do today, is just to explain few areas, few factors that predetermine our last thought moment. In general, we are not in a position to determine what type of karma, memory, or habit would pop up into the last thought moment. We don't know that. But again, so that is why it is generally recommended that you meditate on the good things that you have done in your day-to-day life, so that there will be a higher probability of such good karma popping up to the surface level of your consciousness, thereby strengthening, thereby occupying your last thought moment for good, and so that it would trigger a good comeback into samsara. Now, I have seen 4 general factors within the Buddhist teaching that can be considered predeterminant, or factors that predetermine our last thought moment. Even though, once again, just to say once again, that in general we are not in a position to determine what kind of last thought we would experience at our death. It could be a negative one, it could be a positive one. But these 4 factors that we're going to talk about would help us have a fair idea a fair sense of what will happen to us during our last thought moment. The first factor that would predetermine our last thought moment is the bodhisattva aspiration. I think we did talk about that quite a number of times as well in our previous sessions. Bodhisattva aspiration. As you know, we are sensual beings. Sense pleasure is our identity. But remember, we did talk about the meaning of sattva or sattva in our previous sessions, S-A-T-T-V-A sattva and O-S-A-T-T-V-A S-A-T-T-A satta. Satta or sattva literally means attachment. So we are essentially, naturally beings of attachment. In a way, we are not simply, it's not that we have attachment, we are attachment. Any being, any living, any sentient being is attachment by himself, by itself, by himself, by herself. So, whereas when it comes to, so we are naturally inclined towards pleasure seeking, and attachment is our identity, because we are born of attachment and sattvas. Whereas there's a different kind of sattva, that is bodhisattva, whose only attachment is to enlightenment. But that is a good kind of attachment. Why? It is the opposite attachment. Attachment to enlightenment is totally against sensual attachments, because in sensual attachments we always acquire something. We struggle to get something for ourselves. We struggle to acquire something for ourselves. We struggle to claim the ownership of things, maybe people, persons, or things. Whereas when it comes to bodhisattva, the attachment of a bodhisattva, so that it's not acquisitions, it's not attachment, it's not acquisition, it's not clinging, it's not claiming the ownership of things, it's not running after things, crying for things, struggling to acquire things, but simply giving up on, relinquishing, abandoning attachments. So that, as you know, in our previous dialogues on nirvana, you learned that nirvana is not about attachment, but giving up on attachments. So that at nirvana, you have zero attachment to sensual things. So at that point, bodhisattva aspiration. When you have bodhisattva aspiration, when you aspire to be a bodhisattva, meaning in Theravada Buddhism, we come up with three types of bodhisattvas. We did discuss that before. Samma Sambuddha bodhisattvas who want to be the bodhisattva, who want to be an enlightened person as a Samma Sambuddha, which is the most difficult. And then it might take lots of time. It might take you like eons or kalpas to achieve. And then Pacceka bodhisattvas, or the one way or the silent Buddhas, they are also fully enlightened, but they appear in the world in the absence of a Samma Sambuddha. In the presence of a Samma Sambuddha, they don't appear in the world. And then actually we discuss them that as well. And Arahanta, or the disciple bodhisattvas. Disciple bodhisattvas means who get enlightened in the company of a Samma Sambuddha. So those are the three types of bodhisattvas. Samma Sambuddha bodhisattvas, Pacceka Buddha bodhisattvas, and Arahanta bodhisattvas. So that whenever you do something good, and then when you wish that whatever the good things that you do, and then must contribute towards your enlightenment one day. And then when you practice charity and goodness, observe precepts, meditate, and if you wish something worldly, for example, if you at the end of the meditation, at the end of charity, and at the end of goodness, practice of goodness, if you wish that you come back in a better human form, you acquire more happiness, more worldly things, and you go to heaven and all. If you wish worldly things, it's not a bodhisattva aspiration. And then you might even get anxious during the last thought moment because you are anxious about getting something back out of the good things that you have done. Always be a bodhisattva. Remind yourself, I did this, having done something good, maybe charity, maybe helping someone, maybe kindness, compassion, and then don't expect anything. Okay, may the world be kind to me, and may the may the world appreciate me. Don't do that kind of aspiration. Those are worldly, sensual aspirations. Instead, stick to your bodhisattva aspiration. Say, I did this good thing, not in anticipation of something worldly in return. I did this because I just want to walk away from this agonizing samsara. I want to be a bodhisattva, and that's my purpose. And when you, so that you can avoid anxiety, depression, fear, insecurity at the last thought moment, because you don't expect anything in return from out of the good things that you do, out of charity you perform. That's called a bodhisattva aspiration. When relate, whenever you do something connected with, interrelated with, interconnected with your bodhisattva aspiration. So there'll be no room for anxiety, there'll be no room for insecurity, there'll be no room for dukkha, there will be no room for fear during the last thought moment. Cuti-citta. So that's the first. So that bodhisattva aspiration can predetermine your cuti-citta, so that it guarantees that you don't come back into a miserable life form, dukkha form, and then you will automatically come back to human form or to divine or heavenly form, in which you won't suffer, because there's no anxiety, zero expectation of worldly things in that would occur, that would adulterate your pure cuti-citta. You can have a pure cuti-citta because of thanks to your bodhisattva aspiration. And the second factor that predetermines your cuti-citta is a karma that carries retribution in the very birth, to a certain extent, and in large scale in the immediate next birth. Now, and this is about the 5 grave sins, 5 anantariya kammas, and then you learn during our multiple sessions on karma. You learn that. Remind yourself the 5 things. So the causing death of your mother or father, patricide, and causing the death of an arahant, or killing of and murder of an arahant, and then so causing the injury to the Buddha's skin, Buddha's body, and then so the last one is creating divisions among the sangha, and that can only be committed by a fully ordained monk. That is not general. That's a specific case, and those are the 5 grave sins, and they are anantariya, means na antariya. Na means not, antariya means interim, and there's no, it's not, you don't, and then the karma doesn't wait until you get reborn into the second birth from this birth, and you will the retribution. So the karmic retribution, you will start facing the karmic retribution immediately upon death from this lifetime, and to a certain extent, you face the retribution in terms of emotional suffering, mental suffering, because until death you will keep suffering due to one of those grave sins, anantariya karmas that committed. But so that's what I said, to a certain extent, in this very life, during which you committed the crime. But in large scale, in the larger scale, in the immediate next birth, just like it happened to Devadatta. So that Devadatta had the repercussion, and so he had to face his own karmic retribution due to two anantariya karmas he committed, creating by creating divisions among the sangha and by shaking the blood of the Buddha. And then but it really comes back to you during the last thought moment. During the last thought moment, no matter how many good things you did do after committing that crime, and then however big the karma is, it wouldn't save you. Even if you make the best karma, perform the best kusala, best karma, best meritorious deeds such as katina, and katina wouldn't save you, because simply because you committed one of the 5 great sins: matricide, patricide, murder of an arahant, shaking the blood of the Buddha, or creating divisions among the sangha. And those are the 5 things. And then anantariya karma is the second factor that predetermines your cuti-citta. And the third one is, and the first 2 are very powerful. And third factor that would predetermine your cuti-citta is a karma that you frequently meditate on. Now remember, remind yourself the kind of warning that Buddhist psychology gives you, that whenever you do something bad, don't revisit that bad karma. Why? And every time you do something good, revisit that karma as frequently as possible. Why? In both cases, every time you revisit the karma and you get it, you enhance it, you reactivate it, you multiply it. So that is always good to meditate on good things that you have done in your day-to-day life, so that would help you. That would help you. That karma that is frequently meditated upon would become your savior during the last thought moment. And the more you meditate on that good karma, and that will remain closer to the surface level of your consciousness. On the other hand, if you did something bad, and then you constantly think about it, and you are guilty, unfortunately, that would be a negative predeterminant. It would have an adverse that would adversely affect your cuti-citta, because it's something negative. And then I have, in criminal counseling, in dealing with sessions for inmates, criminals, or people who are guilty in general, I always advise them, tell them. So I try my best to help them distract themselves from the bad things that they have done. Necessary distraction for something good. And so that is the third factor that would predetermine our cuti-citta. And the last and fourth one is, I have arranged them in the order of the level of what is called, what's the right word, the level of domination, predomination. So that the most powerful factor that can predetermine is the first one, bodhisattva aspiration. Second one is the karma that carries retribution in the very birth to a certain extent, and in the largest scale in the immediate next birth, anantariya karma. And the third one is a karma that you very often meditate on, a karma that is frequently meditated on. And the last and the fourth one is So this is the rarest one, I would say. Impression from paranormal beings. And then when a loved one of yours has passed away, stop worrying about their departure. Because why? Because then you continue to maintain an attachment with them, and you need to let go of them. When you let go of them, it benefits both parties. When you let go of the departed ones, and then you can minimize your sorrow, so that you can understand the impermanent nature of our life. And then on the side of standing on the side of the departed ones, even if they are qualified to move to a better place, they wouldn't do so because you worry about them and you don't let them go out of attachment. And as a result, at times it is good if they come and impress you during the last thought moment. But unfortunately, most of the time it is the bad ones. It is you invite them for a passive impression. For example, you have the famous story of the Upasaka Dhammika during the Buddha's time, close to his death, and the Buddha sent a group of monks to bless him. And halfway through the blessing, Upasaka Dhammika signaled the monks to stop, and then so that his gesture was a gesture to stop. And then the monks assumed that he was asking them to stop the blessing, and so they stopped the blessing and came back to the monastery. And then Buddha asked why they came too early, and Buddha saw that and said, "Well, sir, when we were halfway through the blessings, and he stopped us to stop the blessing. No, monks. They didn't ask you to stop. There were other divine beings waiting for him to welcome him, because there were some divine beings, and Dhammika Upasaka lived a life so good, so spiritual, that devas were already there to welcome him. And that's why, anyway, Upasaka Dhammika was reborn into heaven right after his death. And so that's one fine example of the impression from paranormal beings or supernatural beings. But in most cases, what happens is, due to attachment to your departed ones, and who have already been reborn into a negative plane of existence, and they might appear before you during your last thought moment, and they can impress you to follow them. I know some certain cases in parapsychological studies, how some people during their last thought moment got impressed by the presence of their loved ones, and their loved ones were not from a positive realm, like a heavenly realm. They were from a negative, miserable realm, and they wanted their dying relatives to follow them, and they okayed that, and they nodded in their subconscious, and they wanted to do that, follow them. As a result, they got reborn into a negative realm where their earlier departed relatives live now. That being said, that's all I could say given the limited time. Questions welcomed. Pertaining to these 4 factors, though, not about the previous, like Anantariya Karma and all that. We already discussed those things many times.
Bhante, this is Lasanta. May I ask a question, please?
Yes.
So, of the 4 factors, the 4th factor, you call impressions from paranormal beings. So, very often what we do is, and I don't remember if this was discussed before, but after a person's death, we do certain remembrance services, 7-day Amksibin, 3 months and 1 year, so on and so forth. Is that not advisable under this?
Oh, it is. It is totally advisable, because you are doing that to help them out. But in so doing, you need to slowly transform your shoka or sorrow into samvega, or the sense of urgency. I think we did discuss the difference between soka and samvega. Samvega, or sense of urgency, is such that everyone has to die one day. Why not my parents? And they also happen to. Please be happy wherever you are. I'm not worried about your death. Please be happy wherever you are. But even if you perform 1,000 memorial services, but still you still have attachment to them, they might be happy, but still on your side, at least you are not, you are doing damage to yourself. Because so that's why, it has to be for both. It has to be for the sake of collateral well-being. Actually, that's the purpose of doing those memorial things, just to minimize our sorrow. And and that's why it is recommended.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're most welcome. Okay, my friends, let's end the session today. See you again next Friday. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and I wish you a peaceful night. Buddha bless you. Buddha Saranai.
Buddha Saranai.
Saranai.
Thank you.